Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the GSMC Golf Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Garrison McDaniel, and we have a great show for you guys today, as always. We're going to get right into this one, talking about Cam Davis's win at the mOrtgage Classic, as we usually do on these Tuesday golf podcasts. Talk about the winner from the last week, look at their scorecards, see how they did, and what got them to the win. Our second segment, we'll be talking about the rest of the leaderboard and superlatives from the weekend. Talking about best driver. You know the deal by now. It's been a couple months that we've been doing this. Talking about superlatives after a weekend of golf. Our third segment, this is when we get into the golf news from around the world, and we have some big news to talk about. The Netherlands Olympic Association denying golfers into the Olympics. One of them ended up having to sue the Netherlands Federation, and we'll talk about the fallout from that. Our fourth segment, we'll be talking about the large field at the John Deere Classic. Well, it was looking like it was going to be a large field, but we'll still talk about it. There's still some very notable names in a tournament and in a field that I felt like there was going to be nobody at. And then in our fifth and final segment of the night, we'll be talking about Cameron Young's Sunday meltdown, because I feel like it is very important to talk about that. He snapped his driver. So we'll be talking about that. And as always, guys, before we get into our first segment talking about Cam Davis's win at the mOrtgage Classic, if you want to become a bigger part of the show than you guys already are, support the GSMC Golf Podcast, support the GSMC Sports Network in more ways than you guys already do. Use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net. Anything helps us out. We do appreciate it. So with that being said, we're going to get right into the scorecard of Cam Davis. This is his first round, as we always start with. Some things that I can notice from these scorecards is kind of how they played. I'm going to have the scorecard up to my left as you guys have it in front of you, but I also have a breakdown of how he played each hole as well as the scorecard. So we'll be talking about that, the information that you guys don't see on your screen there, because quite frankly, we can't fit it all. But for the first hole, it is a birdie. He gets a good start on his Thursday round. One thing that I noticed with Cam Davis while I'm looking through these scorecards is when he hits a fairway, he plays so well, and he was fantastic with his. He was fantastic off the tee for the most part. That bogey on the second hole, as I'm saying, he's fantastic off the tee. It ended. The bogey on the second hole was from a OB tee shot that he had to re-tee up. Ended up getting into the right rough, and then still bogeying. It's not a great start, but he does immediately answer back with a birdie on the third consecutive par 4. The guy can tee this off. He is very consistent with the driver, about 315, 320 with it. And that's pretty much what you want to be if you are one of these PGA Tour pros. You want to be over 300 because a lot of these courses put fairway bunkers right at that 300 mark. So if you're able to carry those, you put yourself in a very advantageous situation going into the deeper half of the fairways. And he's able to do that. Unable to get another birdie to follow it up on the par 5 fourth hole. This was an easy, par 5 fourth. This was an easy hole throughout the weekend, and it was a very big birdie opportunity. However, if you get stuck on this green, if you don't, you need to be able to hit your putt in one on this green to be able to birdie it. You have 626 yards that lead up to this hole, that lead up to this green, so it is very far back there. But this hole did play pretty easy. Just lay up with your second shot, and it gives you a good chip shot. And when these guys get good chip shots, they're able to put it very close to the hole. And that's just what you have to do on your third shot. Put it very close to the hole, stick it right to that pin high, and then be able to putt for one. And unfortunately, it's a 2-putt here to get him a par on his first round. Next, it's the par 3. Does 2-putt it as well. When we're looking at the scorecard, it's a very big, it's a very consistent theme here on his Thursday round that he did 2-putt almost every hole. 6 was a 2-putt. 7 was a 2-putt. Well, I don't know if he elected to do Texas wedge. I think he elects to do Texas wedge off the green from 7, and then he one-putts it when he gets on the green. But I do think he has putter for 2 shots there on the 7th hole. 8th hole, I believe that's a 2-putt. 9th hole, he 2-putts. 10, 2-putt. 11, He putts it after a bunker shot. That 11 bunker, that greenside bunker on that front right spot, led up to a lot of difficult shots this weekend. When we saw the pin in the back left position on this hole throughout this weekend, it made it so that shot on 11 was very hard out of the bunker. That it was in that back left spot on, I guess, round 2, and I think on round 3 was there as well. So we'll talk about how he was able to navigate on 11. You were really going for par there, as it played as one of the more difficult holes. Speaking of one of the more difficult holes, 11 and 12 is the most difficult stretch of holes on this golf course. You go from the third hardest to the second hardest hole on the golf course. It's a 500-yard par 4. He's able to par both of those, and then is able to get one back on the 14th hole. And then he loved the later holes this weekend. 16, 17, and 18 he played fantastic on throughout the weekend. Able to go birdie on 16, 17. And then a par on 18 to get into the clubhouse. At 4 under, was a little bit back of Akshay Bhatia, who really almost went coast to coast this weekend. We'll talk about him way more in this second segment because I think he is one of the most notable names. Then his second round, going quickly through that, you see 17. Oh, let me switch over for you guys. His second round, you see 17 and 18 here. He goes birdie, as I mentioned. He loves 16, 17, 18. And gets a birdie on 7, which is very important. But 11 and 12 pars again. That was a big theme of this weekend, was parring 11 and 12 to set yourself up for the easier holes. That 14 is the easiest hole on the golf course. 15, 10th, 17, 16th, 18th, 11th. Down the stretch, you have easier holes that you're able to capitalize on. And Cam Davis understood that and really used that to his advantage. He also birdies 7, which is the second easiest hole on the golf course, off of a very great tee shot that carries the fairway bunker. 317, the bunker is at 300 yards, and then 240 in onto the green, which is a very difficult second shot that he's able to stick right there. Moving on to his third round now, he is able to, like I said, birdie 18 here, but it was his front nine that really pushed him into contention here. He gets a 66 on this round. He ends up being, I believe, one back. Yeah, I think he was one back of the lead here on going into the Sunday for Cam Davis. And this Sunday, nobody really wanted to go out and win this one. It was a very weird Sunday. So we'll talk about his round 3, and then we'll go more into the Sunday. It's a bogey-free 6 under card here with a birdie on 18, birdie on 15. He doesn't birdie 14, which is a shock for these guys. He has a little bit of trouble. I think he duffs a wedge shot on the green and then gets it in for a 2-putt on 14. He does birdie 7, however, which is one of the more birdieable holes. And then 1, 2, and 4, which he was fantastic at as well throughout the weekend, those earlier holes. And then round 4, as I was mentioning, round 4, it's so throughout the day, it was really Akshay Bhatia's round to win. And of course, like I said, we'll talk about him more in this next segment. But let me tell you that I don't even think, if you told me before Sunday that 18 under was going to be your winning score and like comfortably winning, like he won by a stroke, and really, I guess it's not comfortably because Akshay Bhatia 3 putts on 18 and kind of blows it, and he admitted to blowing it after in his post-round press conference. But a 70 for Cam Davis didn't feel like enough. Going into the clubhouse, it didn't feel like enough. And he is still able to win without a playoff. 18 under being the win without a playoff. If I had to guess the winning score going into Sunday, I would have said 21-22. I would have said 21 for a playoff, 22 for a solo win. And for Cam Davis, he didn't have his best golf. I mean, started his round with a bogey on hole number 1, which I think this is a 4-putt bogey. One, and then no, it's a 3-putt bogey, but he had a chance at birdie here, like a very good chance at birdie, and wasn't able to get it, and then adds 2 more putts on top of that to get a bogey, and then he's able to do well on the 3rd hole. I have no clue how he ends up with a birdie on the 3rd hole. I remember watching that one. He flies his tee shot all the way to the left, like completely hits a hook on it, and then he's in the pretty high rough there with 90 more yards to go, able to stick it pretty close to the pin and then getting a birdie there. Very impressive on the par 4 3rd. 5th hole, I think this might be his only birdie on a par 3 this entire weekend. Let me make sure that's correct. Yes. That 5th hole was his only 2 on the entire weekend, which is shocking to say the least. Like that's crazy that his only 2 on the entire weekend comes in round 4 and he still wins the tournament. Nobody really went out and got it at the Rocket Mortgage Classic. We talk about the Rocket Mortgage Classic like an opportunity for these young golfers to go out there and make a name for themselves, play some really great golf and get a win. Nobody really put themselves out there. Davis Thompson, the young golfer, had a chance and he wasn't able to capitalize on it. I believe Davis Thompson is 23 if I'm not mistaken. Cam Davis, however, does end up going out and getting his 2nd win of his professional or of his PGA Tour career. He will be now eligible for the next tournaments for the next 2 years, which is very, very good. He has a tour card for the next 2 years, which he probably would get anyways. His FedEx Cup ranking is top 70. He is 38th in the official World Golf Rankings. So he wasn't really worried about that. Like maybe a Davis Riley was kind of worried about that earlier. Maybe a Nick Dunlap when he won the Amex, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's the tournament he won to get his tour card. But for Cam Davis, now officially being eligible for the next 2 years, getting his 2nd career on tour. Very impressive. This is his only top 10 of the entire season as well, which is very shocking that he ends up getting a win here. It's the Rocket Mortgage Classic. Anybody could go out here and get a win. I mean, Ricky Fowler did it last year, and Ricky Fowler is pretty far away from the prime of his career. But he gets the win at the Rocket Mortgage Classic after a T48 at the Travelers, cut at the U.S. Open, T50 at the Memorial, T56 at the Charles Schwab, cut at the PGA Championship, T38 at the Wells Fargo. You keep going on and on and on. This is his only top 10 of the entire year. His next best score is a T12 at the Masters, a T18 at the Arnold Palmer, and a T20 at Pebble Beach. He only has 4 rounds in the top, or he only has 4 weekends in the top 20 this entire year. So kind of weird, kind of crazy that he ends up with the win here at the Rocket Mortgage. But that'll wrap it up for talking about Cam Davis's win, looking at a scorecard from the Rocket Mortgage Classic. When I come back from my break, we'll be talking about the rest of the leaderboard and superlatives from the weekend.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Welcome back to the GSMC Golf Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm back talking in my second segment, talking about the weekend superlatives and leaderboard review from the Rocket Mortgage Classic. This tournament was really fun for me, seeing a lot of these young guys in the field making a name for themselves without the big guns in this field, without Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, without Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas. You know, the names that kind of distract you from other guys that are playing some really good golf, like Akshay Bhatia. And we're going to get right into talking about this young guy, because he goes out there, shoots 8 under on round 1, and it's looking fantastic. And it's looking like this is it. He goes 4 under on his last 3 holes of his round on round 1 to get that 64. But going through the weekend, he looked so good. He looked like he was going tape to or wire to wire, number 1. And then the 18th hole on the last day happens. The 18th hole on the final day played as the most difficult hole on the entire golf course that day. And Akshay Bhatia made it look way harder. He ends up 3-putting after a fantastic, and I'm telling you, a fantastic second shot. His tee shot goes 300 yards, gets it right into the fairway. Then his second shot is 173 yards, get it to the high part of the screen, and the pin is the furthest back on this green it can be. He gets it to the high left spot of this green, has about 25 feet left for birdie and to guarantee a win here at the Rocket Mortgage Classic. And it's looking like he's going to get his first career win on tour. Akshay Bhatia, who has been playing some fantastic second career win on tour. Third career win on tour. I am all over the place now. He won earlier this year, I forgot, at the Valero Texas Open. But he would have gotten his third career win on tour for the 22-year-old. It is unfortunate, however. Sorry, I had his post-round press conference stuck in my head, and to me it seemed like he hasn't won on tour before, but he definitely has, looking at his tour profile. But he ends up 3-putting, and it's a brutal 3-putt. The first putt, it was a speed control putt. Make sure it doesn't go far. Make sure you give yourself a chance at getting par on this hole. And then the second putt is just, you need to have it, and it needs to go down, but it doesn't. And that's the end for Akshay Bhatia's Rocket Mortgage Classic win. It's hard. He's been playing some fantastic golf, however, as of late. Dating back to the Memorial Tournament, the last 4 tournaments that we've seen on tour this year, fantastic golf, like I said. T2 at the Rocket Mortgage, T5 at the Travelers, T16 at the U.S. Open, T22 at the Memorial, and I believe he was in or around the lead the last 3 weekends on tour. He is playing some fantastic golf. I think he's played in every tournament dating back to the Wells Fargo Championship in a row. Yeah, I believe so. So that is 2 months straight of him playing on tour and playing every single tournament, which is very impressive. We see a lot of guys taking breaks, and I believe he's in the field for the John Deere Classic as well, if I'm not mistaken. Let me make sure. I do have the field pulled up for that. Actually, it looks like he's not in the field, as I believe he would. Yeah, he is not in the field for the John Deere, so he's getting a much-deserved rest here this upcoming weekend. But for Akshay Bhatia, he really had this one, and it just kind of slipped out the palm of his hands. The rest of the leaderboard, Minwoo Lee made a charge on Sunday, 69. Davis Thompson made a charge on Sunday, 68. 2 guys that weren't in the final 2 pairings, but didn't make an attempt at winning this one. But as for the final pairings, played pretty bad. Who was in it? It was Cam Davis. It was Akshay Bhatia, Aaron Rai, who also got a 72, and Cameron Young, who got a 73, who we'll be talking all about Cameron Young in the 5th segment of the night. But looking down the leaderboard, some of the amateurs that played some really good golf. Luke Clampton, T10 as an amateur, 20-year-old out of Georgia. very impressive for him. Some other young names: Neil Shipley, 11 under T20. He had some fantastic. He had a fantastic Thursday and Friday, up to a kind of challenging weekend, 70 and 72, unable to get his name up there towards the top of the leaderboard. Other young guys in this field, I believe you had Ben James, an amateur. He was T44. I know Michael Thorntonson didn't make the cut, which was very disappointing for him. Other names that didn't make the cut: Miles Russell, the 15-year-old that we were talking about, wasn't able to play into the weekend, but he did have an under par a day on Friday, so very impressive with him. Jackson Koivun, one of the better college golfers that there is from Auburn, he got cut as well, as he was even a par. And I think that wraps it up for the bigger amateur names. Some names that did withdraw: David Lipsky, Will Zalatoris withdrew, and Alejandro Tosti also withdrew after Thursday as well. So going now into the superlatives after talking about that leaderboard. My best driver of the weekend was Luke Clanton, the amateur Luke Clanton, which I love when amateurs just go out there and play some fantastic golf. And let me tell you, he really wanted to go out there and get it in this one. He was 4th in distance, 14th in accuracy, and 2nd in strokes gained off the tee. He was 1st overall in total driving. Very, very impressive driving out of Luke Clanton. That's one to be proud of if you are Luke Clanton going on tour and just kind of, well, this is the tournament to make a name for yourself, right? We talked about it on Thursday, how the Rocket Mortgage Classic can really be that tournament for you to kind of put yourself out there, maybe get a tour card from winning it. And Luke Clanton didn't leave anything on the table here. Really, T10 is something to be extremely proud of if you are Luke Clanton, the amateur out of Georgia, 20 years old, being able to play some good golf. Best irons goes to Akshay Bhatia, and it hurts me to say. He should have won this one, man. He really should have, and I'm going to 100% admit to rooting for him on Sunday, and he did just kind of blow it. Very disappointing for me. 2nd in strokes gained on approach, 1st in greens in regulation for the weekend, hitting 87.5 greens in regulation. Very impressive stat there from Akshay. And he was also 7th in proximity to hole. On his irons, he would hit it within 30 feet of the hole pretty consistently, which is very impressive. And that's on average. So, you have your outliers, especially with a 620-something yard hole. You end up having that average be a lot higher for the weekend than it usually would be. And he still has it around where the best players on tour put it within their proximity. So impressive stuff from Akshay Bhatia on the irons. Just unfortunately not able to do it in and around the green. Best wedges, it's Minwoo Lee from the weekend. He was 1st in strokes gained around the green, 17th overall in scrambling. But for this weekend, with a lot of these guys hitting greens in regulation, the scrambling numbers don't disappoint me too much with Minwoo Lee. He had 22 shots, and this is really... My apologies. But this is really where he separated himself with his wedge game. With 22 shots from off of the green this weekend out of his 72 holes, he averaged 4 feet from the hole on those wedge shots. Which, you can't place it any better than that. That's impressive. He was number 1 in that stat, and I had to give some gas to that because it absolutely deserved it. And the best putter was Taylor Moore. He was 2nd in total putting. He was top 3 in strokes gained with putting, so I put him as the best putter. As not a lot of these guys had difficult putts, so it was hard to separate out with the best putter, but I elected to go with Taylor Moore. It was impressive what I saw from him from the weekend. And he ended up with T10 with it, so I think it's deservingly so that he is the best putter. My most surprising, as I am looking for him, there it is, Davis Thompson. I had to scroll back up to the top of the leaderboard for that. My most surprising is Davis Thompson. He finished T2. He's the 23-year-old golfer out of Athens, Georgia. Let me make sure I get that correct. 25-year-old 25-year-old golfer out of Athens, Georgia. He was born in Georgia from Atlanta. He has 3 top 10s this year. Not really, though, consistently finishing at the top of the leaderboards. Looking at his placements, it was a T9 at the U.S. Open that maybe you could have inferred that he has something like a performance like this available to him, but T2 at the Myrtle Beach Classic doesn't really leave me that impressed. And for the rest of the year, I mean, cut, T47, T24, cut, T57, T23, T45. Like, it's not that great when you're looking at Davis Thompson's tour record here and his results, but able to go out there and finish T2. Now he's pretty high up there. I'm sorry, as my voice cracks. He's 51st in the FedEx Cup rankings. He needs to be top 50 for that BMW Championship at the end of the year, top 30 for the Tour Championship at the end of the year. We'll see if he can make a charge as the 70th. He is 70th in the official World Golf rankings. I expect that to increase throughout the season. He's been playing some fantastic golf. Been a professional golfer for the last 3 years and is really showing that now is when he is going to separate himself. My most disappointing, and it might just be because I hyped him up so much. No, it's not Miles Russell, because I did expect Miles Russell to get cut. He's 15 years old, to be fair. My most disappointing is Michael Thorntonson. Thorbjornsen, maybe. I think it's Thorbjornsen. Thorntonson. That's going to be a difficult one. I'm going to need to hear the commentator say it a few times to make sure I get that one correct. But for Michael, he is the number 1 PGA Tour University golfer. He got his tour card because of it, and he got cut again. Well, maybe this is his first time being cut, but he didn't have a great showing last week at the Travelers on his PGA Tour debut. This is his second professional tournament, and he is unable to make the cut line here. He finished 3 under, so only 1 back of the cut line, but it was a 73 on Friday that got me to say this. He had a triple bogey on the par 4 13th that, I mean, it was a disappointing one for him, and I think he would probably admit to it being disappointing. All over the place with his irons here, trying to lay up, but it just didn't work too well for him. So, yeah, I do have Michael Thorntonson as the most disappointing golfer from the weekend. So that'll wrap it up for this second segment here, talking about the weekend superlatives and leaderboard review. When I come back from my second break of the night, we're going to be talking about the Netherlands denying Olympic golfers from competing in Paris.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Welcome back to the GSMC Golf Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network, and we're talking about one of the craziest stories I've seen in golf in recent memory. I talked to my boss Andrew Tate about this, and he said that this doesn't really shock him. I talked to him about it because he lives over in Portugal, so he's around, Europe culture and understands it a little bit more here. And he said that he's not surprised about this because that's, in his own words, it's kind of wasting the Netherlands, time. They're not going to be able to compete in this one, so why put them there? But I still think that this is one of the crazier stories. It doesn't make sense kind of knowing the people of the Netherlands, knowing the Dutch Federation, that this isn't as... Right, if this happened in America, we would be... I think all of America would be completely outraged about this. Like, even if we don't have a... If we told our cricket team, hey, you can't compete in the Cricket World Cup because, well, we suck at cricket, and I'll be the first one to admit that this country is awful at a sport like that, like cricket. No, I'll stick with cricket because this is probably more of a comparable example. I was going to take it to soccer, but I think our soccer team is a lot better than what these Netherlands golfers are to golf. But for America, if our cricket team was like, if the United States Olympic or whatever federation says, no, you can't compete in this competition in cricket because you guys will get smoked and it won't be worth our time, I think there will be a lot of rage, and I think that would not go over well. So to see it, I think that America is more mad about this than the people of the Netherlands are mad about it. But honestly, I would be really mad if I was one of these golfers and I did enough to qualify for the Olympics. I mean, you kidding me? I did enough to qualify for the Olympics. I've been invited to the Olympics and my country just says, you don't have a chance. Them American boys, that Scotty Scheffler kid, that guy's way too good. You're not going to be able to compete with him. You also have Rory McIlroy if you're just trying to be the best European. If you're trying to get silver, well, Rory's going to probably get that himself. I think I would be really, really annoyed if I was, I'm going to butcher this name, Leuten, I believe that's how you pronounce it. Hey, I'm not, this is one of the most common themes here on my podcast. I'm horrible with name pronunciations. I'll be the first one to admit it. So if you guys want to toss a comment, if you do know the correct pronunciation, I would love to hear it. I do love being corrected on stuff like that. If it's educating everybody, it helps everybody out. I don't mind it. So if you do know the correct pronunciation, I wouldn't mind it. But I'm gonna go with Leuten for the rest of this segment here. Leuten, he ended up suing the Netherlands Federation. The official federation that he sued was the Netherlands Olympic Committee and Netherlands Sport Federation. So I'm reading an article by Reuters here. This is where I'm getting my source of information from. Leuten said on Tuesday he won a court case that will get him into the Paris Olympics after the Netherlands Olympic Committee and Netherlands Sports Federation opted not to send him despite being eligible. Leuten, who did not say where the court case took place, had qualified for Paris, but his national committee decided not to enter him into the golf competition, believing his world ranking, which was 147th at the time, was too low to give him a realistic chance in a 60-player field. The Olympic rings are colored again, Leuten wrote in an Instagram post announcing that the court's decision, while adding that the Netherlands Federation had to enter him into the men's golf competition. Darius van Driel and Dewey Weber of the Netherlands had also qualified for the Olympics men's and women's golf competitions respectively, but were denied a chance to play. It was not clear if the court ruling shared by Leuten also impacted van Driel and Weber. So 3 people got denied here. Here's the thing, is if this was a different event, I would understand it. If this was track and field and we're talking about the 150th best time in the world, and a federation looks at one of your runners that technically qualified, but they have the 150th ranking in the world in running, you're on an outside chance looking in and you don't think it's worth it. But here's the thing. We're talking about golf here. I just went over an entire segment talking about Cam Davis winning on the tour with his second win in a field that consists of Ricky Fowler, in a field that consists of other guys that are very decorative. Matt Kuchar was in that field. Other names that, do really well in golf and are definitely bigger names than Cam Davis, like Bobby McIntyre, who won earlier this year. He was in the field. Other names like Sam Ryder, who was in the field. It's understandable in a different sport, and I think that this is what we're confusing here. I don't think he realistically had a chance at going out there and getting a medal. I think on Thursday I'm doing a full preview of the Olympics for golf here on the GSMC Golf Podcast. So we'll talk about it more in depth then on, why I don't have these guys having a very big chance. But it's more because of just how Scotty Scheffler is playing. Truly, I don't know how good this guy is. I'm going to be the first to admit it. I don't watch the DP World Tour. I don't watch the European Tour. So I don't really know how good he is at golf. So I can't talk from a first person perspective. But he's still 147th in the world. Like, I'll take Joel Dahmen for example. Joel Dahmen competes on the PGA Tour and is good enough to compete on the PGA Tour pretty consistently. He has one win on tour. He's been a professional on the PGA Tour for 14 years. He's 36 years old. He's 159th in the official World Golf Rankings. He's 12 spots below this guy in the official World Golf Rankings. And I think Joel Dahmen could compete in any field that Scottie Scheffler is in. Truly, I think he is skillful enough. Honestly, we're talking about at least the guys on the tour, and I don't know really how this translates to the European Tour, but at least the guys on the PGA Tour, there's about 150 of them that can compete a week. Like, Davis Riley came out of nowhere and won his first career win on tour, and that was kind of a shock earlier this year. Guys like Luke Clanton and Neil Shipley, who, don't have official World Golf Rankings, are pretty, and if they did, they would be pretty low, are getting T10 and T20 in a PGA Tour event respectively. A guy like Rico Hoey, who is just completely came out of nowhere, got a T6 this weekend. He has one top 10 this entire year, and he got it this weekend. He's 145th in the official World Golf Rankings, only 2 spots above Joost Luiten of the Netherlands. So golf is different is my point here, and I feel like the Netherlands and their federation was a little bit naive in saying that their players don't have a chance, and like, for me, that's crazy. Just saying like, hey, they don't have a chance, so we don't want to send them, is insane. And it's not just that, it's if like this was like a money thing and they just use an excuse like that, that's fine. But the golfers offer to pay for it, and I think the DP World Tour and their sponsorships through that offer to pay them. We're talking about one country apart is France and the Netherlands. Like, Paris is not far from Netherlands at all. I think there's a train that goes into Paris from the Netherlands, and the Olympic Committee will get them their hotel. I think this is insane. Truly, I think telling athletes of your country that they can't compete. It's gonna be interesting. This is where I'll go with this. It's gonna be very interesting to see what they do when they do come out to compete, because I do believe that, especially with Luiten getting his winning his court case, we're gonna see Darius Vandriel go to court for this. sue the Netherlands Sports Federation and Netherlands Olympic Committee, and of course he's gonna win if Joost Luiten did win. So we're gonna see 2 Netherlands players in this 60-person field. First off, I can't wait to see where they place, because there's a chip on their shoulder here. They're definitely gonna want to come out and compete and play well. But it's not just that. It's also that I'm very interested to see how they react to wearing the Dutch colors and wearing Netherlands across their hat, or whatever across their polo, whatever they decide to do to support their country. I could imagine that that there's going to be something controversial coming down the line, and of course this is completely speculatory. I don't know for sure, but I could only imagine that something like that's going to happen, kind of like something like the Patrick Cantlay not wearing the hat from the Ryder Cup, although that ended up being a false story. But of course, we'll see the fallout from this. I'm very intrigued on this story, and I'll keep you guys updated the more and more we do find out on it. As it's truly insane that a federation just says, no, you can't compete because you're not good enough, although you qualify because you were clearly good enough. But hey, nonetheless, that'll wrap it up for that third segment. I think I could keep rambling about that for a while longer, but next, we'll go into the larger field than usual at the John Deere Classic, what that means for golf, and who is in this larger field.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Welcome back to the GSMC Golf Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. We're on to our fourth and penultimate segment from the night. This is a larger field than usual at the John Deere Classic. Now, we're just going to go right into talking about this field here. We have a lot of notable names. Sungjae Im is in the field, who is, I believe, top 10, or if not, he's top 15 in the FedEx Cup rankings. Actually, I should probably pull up the FedEx Cup rankings alongside of these so that I can make sure I get this correct here when I talk about this. So, yeah, you have Sungjae Im, who is 15th in the FedEx Cup rankings. You have Seb Straka, who is 17th in the FedEx Cup rankings. You have next up is Jordan Spieth, who is having a very disappointing season, but, you know, it's Jordan Spieth. He can definitely go out there and win this one. You have Jason Day, who's 28th in the FedEx Cup rankings. You have JT Poston, who is, I think he's pretty high up here as well of the FedEx Cup rankings. You have Aaron Rai, who's 57th. And then you just have a bunch of guys around the 50s and 60s mark here. Nick Dunlap, Kevin Yu, Luke Clanton's in this field, the amateur. I'm excited to see more out of him. Eric Cole, Mark Hubbard, Lucas Glover, Thornton Olesen. You have Michael Thormundson. You have Doug Gim, Seamus Power, Andrew Novak, JJ Spawn, Adam Shank, S.H. Kim, Neil Shipley's in this field. You have Davis Riley, who I talk about being one of the more random winners from this year, but he has won on tour this year. And a lot of guys just going down the board. It's just kind of full of notable names here. Of course, there's no Scotty Scheffler. We knew that there wasn't going to be any Scotty Scheffler for the next 2 weeks starting from the Rocket Mortgage. No Rory McIlroy, which we knew wasn't going to be in this field. There is nobody from the top 10 of the FedEx Cup rankings in this field. However, it's still a shock how many people are in this field. Akshay Bhatia elected to withdraw from the field, who was going to be in this. Patrick Cantlay was supposed to be in this one. He also elected to withdraw. And other names, Xander Schauffele, Colin Morikawa, Wyndham Clark, Ludwig Oberg, they're all out of this field as well. However, we're still seeing a larger field than usual at the John Deere Classic, and I love this, and I think that it is the right decision. Here's what I'm noticing here in this field. First off, Seb Straka is in this one because he's going for a back-to-back title at TPC Deere Run, which makes sense. You also have Jordan Spieth, and who has won here, and Sungjae Im, who has played well at the John Deere Classic. I love this for a particular reason that we're seeing so many people in this field, because it shows that guys really want to work to getting back to a good spot in their golf game, and they're using tournaments as a way to get reps, I guess. It's a saying in like football that there is nothing like in-game reps. That, why do we see a spring game for college football? It's because you want to give your incoming freshmen and guys that are going to start for the first time, you don't want their first live game inside of a stadium and with a crowd to be that first game of the season, right? That you want kind of that tune-up a little bit before, and you use spring football to do that, and then you up the intensity as well in fall camp, and you emulate that environment, and you go through real game reps in the spring game. Well, how do you improve a golf game is you go out there on a course. You don't just sit there, at a range working on your shot shapes with a coach right at your back telling you the same things that you've heard since you were 7 years old playing golf, right? you need to go out there and play on tour. And I think, and I'm really targeting this conversation towards Jordan Spieth, who is having the worst year of his career by far, I believe, barring it's through injury. So it makes sense. But, and I apologize, I just hit my mic. I bet that was loud. But for Jordan Spieth, who is 58th right now in the FedEx Cup rankings, first off, he needs to start getting up there in the FedEx Cup rankings. He wants to be there competing in the Tour Championship for that $100 million purse. So you're not going to be able to do that if you're sitting around here leading up to August when those tournaments are happening. But like also for Jordan Spieth, he should be in the Olympics, right? Like to his standards. And when we were looking at this, when it was like 2014, 2015, and he was really coming up for the first time in golf, you felt like he was a mainstay for like the Team USA Ryder Cups and Team USA Olympics for many, many years. And he's fallen back. And he understands that he's falling back, and he knows that he's falling back, and it's disappointing for him. And he wants to get back to competing every single week on tour. He's one of the best talents when he is, on and playing at the level that we all know Jordan Spieth can play at. But I'm not going to hold my breath predicting him to win this one, of course. But still, I wish I saw this more from other guys. From other guys that are having bad seasons to their standings. Like Victor Hovland's 48th in the FedEx Cup standings. He's 18 spots away from that top 30 for the Tour Championship. He definitely could use a week getting reps here at a tournament as well. And I love that Jordan Spieth is going back to the site of his first ever tour win. If you didn't know, this is where he won his first ever win on tour at the John Deere Classic. I believe it was 2013 that happened. Man, that was a very long time ago. I'm actually curious to make sure I get that right. If I can find it, there it is. Jordan Spieth. But while I look at this, it's just been very disappointing for him as of late, and hopefully he's able to put together 4 rounds under par, which I don't remember the last time I saw Jordan Spieth get 4 rounds under par. He's won 13 times on tour, but hasn't won in a fairly long time. It's been let's make sure I first off get the right year that he won his first win on tour. Was it 2013? Was it 2013? I think it was 2013. Yes, it was. It was July 14th of 2013 to be exact, where he won his first one on tour. But it's been a long time since Jordan Spieth has won, and I just want to see him back to the level that we all know that he can play. And that kind of goes for a lot of guys in this field. It also goes for Sungjae Im, who hasn't been playing that great of golf. It goes for Seb Straka, who hasn't been playing to the level that we've grown accustomed to with Seb. So we'll see what all of these guys look like in this field. I'm excited for the John Deere Classic. I felt like we were going to have 2 kind of weeks of golf that we're more looking at the amateurs than we're looking at the professionals on the tour, and we're more excited for names like Neil Shipley, Michael Thormundsen. Last week, Miles Russell was probably the most fun name in the entire field for me personally, because if you guys follow my hockey podcast, I talk a lot about prospects, and I love prospects. So it only makes sense for me to talk about the amateurs here in golf, as I love watching guys just kind of grow with their sport, kind of get better and better and better every single week, and growing towards something instead of kind of falling away from something. So I'd much rather watch Michael Thormundsen or Neil Shipley right now than probably Jordan Spieth, who is kind of an aging superstar in golf, but he can definitely get back to it, man. He can definitely get back to the form that we all know Jordan Spieth can play out. I'm excited to see him in this field. That'll wrap it up for our 4th segment of the night, talking about a larger field than usual at the John Deere Classic. When I come back from my 4th and final break of the night, we'll be talking about Cameron Young's Sunday meltdown. Welcome back to the GSMC Golf Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. We're back with our fifth and final segment of the night, talking about Cameron Young's meltdown on Sunday, kind of. This guy really had a great chance. He ended up 2 back of the lead at 16 under a T6 here. Or, sorry, he was 3 back of the lead. I apologize. But coming in on Sunday, he was 1 back. Yes, I believe he was 1 back of Akshay Bhatia, who held the lead at 17 under. And for Cameron Young, he was the penultimate pairing here on Sunday. And it just, despite the scorecard, it was a meltdown, and he still had a chance. Like, truly, on 14, he had a great chance, but he cracks his driver on 14, and it hurts him so badly. On 18, he gets a bogey. I think he also gets a bogey on 16, in part because of a cracked driver. If he has his driver on 16 and 18, first off, a 260-yard tee shot that goes into a bunker on the hardest hole of the golf course of the day is not what you want to see, and it did make it very difficult for him to get a good result on that hole. But for him, leading up to that 14th tee box where he does crack his driver, it's not that bad of a day. Hole 1 sends his driver to the left rough. Hole 2 sends his driver to the left rough. Hole 3 sends his driver to the left rough. Hole 4 gets it in the fairway, but it's on the left side of the fairway. Hole 5, it's a par 3 that he ends up in the rough somehow. Hole 6, left rough. Hole 7 in the fairway. Hole 8, almost right rough. Hole 9 is a par 3. Hole 10 in the fairway. Hole 11, left bunker, but it's on a par 3. Hole 12, right rough. Hole 13, left rough. Hole 14, left rough. Only hitting like 2 fairways all day is absolutely brutal. Not what you want to see. If you're trying to change, like, he really had a chance today. If he goes out there, 18 under was the 18 under won this tournament. He ends up at 15 under with his by far the worst round of the entire weekend. Gets a 73 on Sunday. If he gets a 70, he's in a playoff. If he gets a 69, which still would have been his worst round of the entire weekend, he still wins the tournament. Cameron Young fails to win another tournament is the storyline, or is that, headed storyline here. This guy has come a runner-up in, 7-8 tournaments since he turned pro in 2021? When did he turn pro? In 2019 is when he turned pro. He has 1 runner-up this year. 2022-2023, he had 1 runner-up. 2021-2022, he had 5. He had 5 runner-ups in 2022. Was T2 at Sanderson Farms. Was T2 at the Genesis. Was T3 at the RBC Heritage. T2 at the Wells Fargo Championship. T3 at the PGA Championship. Second at the Open Championship. Solo second at the Open Championship. T2 at the Rocket Mortgage. This is his second T2 in this tournament. Like, this guy is known as the best player on tour without a win, and in the last 3 years alone, he has 7 runner-ups. That is absolutely brutal, and he has a bunch of thirds as well. He has a third at the Hero Road Challenge to make his third in the last 3 years, and a second at the World Golf Championship, which is a match play tournament, so hey, not too bad to get a second there, but man, always competing is kind of Cameron Young. He skipped out on the Rocket Mortgage Classic last year, but a T6 and a T8 at the John Deere and the Open Championship during this kind of part of the season. Man, for Cameron Young, what does this guy have to do? Does he have to buy a win? That's what it's looking like. He got a second place at the Valspar Championship and then ends up with a T6 at the Rocket Mortgage Classic. That's tough. he's going to win one eventually, right? He will win one eventually, but for such a great golfer, man, Cameron Young is always kind of up there on the leaderboards, on the scoreboards. He is the 22nd golfer in the official World Golf Rankings. He's 30th right now in the FedEx Cup Championship. Like, he puts himself in contention, man, and that's all you really can do. Looking around him at the other guys that are kind of within his name at the FedEx Cup Championship, you got right above you JT Poston and Jason Day and Max Homa. Right below you is Taylor Pendrith, Adam Hadwin, Siwoo Kim. All big names. Matt Fitzpatrick is 35th, Keegan Bradley 36th. All big names here on the PGA Tour. He's a fantastic golfer. He just can't win one. He is the best golfer in the world, probably, without a professional win. It's gonna come, right? It's gonna come, and it's gonna feel so good for Cameron Young, but just a blow up here, and he still had a chance, right? Like throughout the weekend, and looking at his scorecards from the Rocket Mortgage Classic, he played fantastic on the back nine. Birdie on 17, birdie on 17, birdie on 16. He played the back nine 4 under through the first 3 rounds, and then goes bogey to really just eliminate him from contention. If he just pars that, he's tied 2 again. And if he finds another, here's the tough thing. He pars 7 and pars 14, which are the 2 easiest holes on the golf course. From the weekend on round 4. In round 3, he birdies them. Round 2, he birdie 7 and 14. And round 1, he birdie eagle 7 and 14. He plays those 2 holes 7 under in the first 3 rounds, and then goes even on them in the in round 4. And I think to him, when he absolutely hooks his driver to the left rough on hole 14th, and when he cracks his driver, takes it out of play for the rest of the day, it's just him understanding that this isn't his tournament. Like, he just always comes so close. On Golf Digest, they did a story about it, and in their article, it says Young is one of the best players on the PGA Tour without a victory, and the cracked driver came amid his latest chance to erase that distinction. Young was 17 under and 1 back on 14, and despite his drive, he still made par on the hole. Though he made an eagle and 2 birdies in his previous round, so par is arguably a step back. With his driver unavailable, he made bogey on 16, but then hit 2 straight 3-woods to the green on the par 5 17th and settled for par. Trailing by 2 shots, though, with 5 players ahead of him, it's likely a case of too little, too late. They wrote that story while, everything was going on Sunday. It's just tough, man. It's tough. You can't let your emotions get the best of you on the PGA Tour, and he kind of does in that moment, and that's kind of what led to him not winning again on tour. So we'll see if he can break through here in the upcoming weeks. I believe he did pull his name out from the John Deere Classic, so that distinction's going to go on for another week. But with that all being said, that'll wrap it up for this Tuesday edition of the GSMC Golf Podcast. When I come back for the GSMC Podcast on Thursday, I will give you guys a heads up that will be a pre-recorded show, as it is the 4th of July. I will be doing pre-recorded shows for both of my Thursday and Friday podcasts this week. I'll also remind you guys again on Wednesday that is the case. So it won't be a live stream show on Thursday, but I will be back next Tuesday after the John Deere Classic to be back live. So a little bit change up in my usual streaming schedule, streaming setup. I will still have a show pre-recorded and live, and it will be premiering at the same time at 8:30 Central Time on Thursday, but I will not be able to interact with the chat like I am usually. So with that being said, it'll wrap it up for this Tuesday edition of the GSMC Golf Podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. All your support means so much to us at the GSMC Sports Network. If you enjoy the show, don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube, and also rate us on whatever you are listening to the podcast on, whether that's Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And also, as always, if you want to get more content and updates from the GSMC Sports Network, you can follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, or Instagram at the GSMC Sports Network. Thank you all again for your support, and thank you all for tuning into the GSMC Golf Podcast. All of you guys have a fantastic and wonderful evening.
Let's go. I wake up